All right, guys, so we're going to continue reading Mockingbird, chapters 3 through 5 today. And chapter 3 is called Let's Talk About It. Dad says it's time to go back to school, so here I am, back in Mrs. Brooks' room, sitting at the little round table. I look at the walls and not much has changed except the mad face on the facial expression chart now has a mustache. I know because I have looked at that chart about a million times to try to figure out which emotion goes with which face. I'm not very good at it. I have to use the chart because when I look at real faces, I don't get it. That's another proper thing. I don't get it. I don't understand. Mrs. Brooks says that people have a hard time understanding me because I have Asperger's. So I have to try extra hard to understand them, and that means working on emotions. I'd rather be drawing. Hi, Caitlin, Mrs. Brooks says softly. She still smells like Dial body wash. I look at the chart and I nod. This means that I'm listening, even if there's no eye contact. So how are you? I start sucking on my sleeve and I stare at the chart. How are you feeling? I stare at the chart some more and I hear myself sigh. My stomach feels all yucky, like it's at recess, which is the worst subject. I take a deep breath and I try to deal with it. I finally said, I feel like TiVo. She leans across the table to me, not too close to my personal space because I'll use my words to tell her to back off if she gets too close. Say again. TiVo, I say. What does that mean? Mrs. Brooks says. I fast forward through the bad parts and then all of a sudden I'm watching something and I'm not sure how I got there. She scratches the part of her hair with her forefinger, and the rest of her fingers stick up in the air and move like they're waving, and then she stops. I see, she says. I look around the room. What do you see? I ask. I think you'd like to forget about the painful events that you've been through. I want to tell her that I prefer TiVo on mute and I wish that she would cooperate. But if I do that, she'll start the whole let's talk about it discussion, so I don't say anything. The funeral must have been very difficult, she says. I wonder what she means. We sat in a church. It wasn't very difficult. It was like TiVo on mute. Everyone spoke so quietly I could barely hear them, and almost no one talked to me. They looked at me, which I did not like, and some of them even touched me, which I hate, but no one tried to start a conversation with me. And no one laughed like crashing glass, and there was no lightning movement, and no one appeared out of nowhere, and nothing happened suddenly. Let's talk about it, she said. I turn around in my chair so I can't see her anymore. I know it's difficult, but you can't keep it all inside. She stops talking, but not for long. Did you cry at the funeral? I shake my head. At the funeral, a lot of grown-ups cried, but I don't know why. Most of them had never even known Devin. I think about how much Dad had been crying, and the words jump out of my mouth. Dad cried. Did that upset you? I gripped the back of my chair. I didn't like it. Why not? I don't know. Were you sad for him? I don't know. Did it make you feel uncomfortable? Try to think of different answers than I don't know because Devin says people don't like I don't know all that much. I don't know why. So I try hard to focus on her question. Did it make you uncomfortable? I think about what it's like to be comfortable, being completely covered by my purple fleece blanket under my bed and putting my head under the sofa cushion or reading my dictionary. That was comfortable. I did not have any of those feelings at the funeral. Yes, I was very uncomfortable. Why? I don't know, people. Please stop asking me questions. Caitlin, your father is sad. I turn back toward the facial expression chart and I wonder how Mrs. Brooke knows what he's feeling right now, and I wonder if I have done something wrong. Why? Her head pokes forward like a turtle before she pulls it back and says in her nice voice, he misses Devin. Oh, miss is such a strange word, I tell her. Have you ever looked it up in the dictionary? There's miss, like Miss Harper, the principal, and there is miss, like you will miss your bus if you don't hurry because you have to step on every crack. And then there's miss, like dead. Do you miss Devin? I don't know, I say. She does the turtle head jerk again, and just barely, but I see it. He's not completely gone anyway, I tell her. I think about his bedroom, even though the door is shut, and his bike leaning against the back of the house, and his chest that he's making in the corner of the living room. Her face squishes up like she's trying to get it. That's true, she said. A part of Devin will always be with you. So I want you guys to just pause here a second and try to be empathetic with Caitlin here. What is she trying to understand? And how does this conversation that she's having with Mrs. Brooke help us understand Caitlin better? Which part is always going to be with me, I wondered. No parts of his body are left because he was cremated. That means burned into ashes. Can you feel him? I look around in the air. I look down at my hands. Are parts of Devin scraping me? Is that what I'm supposed to feel? The heat is blowing from the vent on the ceiling. I feel that. That's only air from the furnace. Or does it have Devin in it? Where do you go when you get burned up and turned into smoke into the air? Maybe you get sucked into furnace systems and blow out through the vents. I shrug. Can you still feel Devin? Mrs. Brooke asks. Maybe. I'm not sure it's really him, though. It could be anyone. What would he feel like? I mean the things he did for you. The things you did together. You'll miss him, but he'll always be with you, just in a different way. I don't want him around in a different way. I want him around in the same way, the way he was before, when he makes popcorn and hot chocolate, and he tells me what to say and what clothes to wear and how not to be weird so kids won't laugh at me, and he plays basketball with me, and he always gives me a chance to win by tripping or moving slowly or going the wrong way when I do a fake. I can tell he's doing something on purpose by looking at his mouth. His lips move in a certain way when he's thinking. When he's being sneaky, his lips move in a different way, but when he's being sneaky, he is doing it to be nice to me. That's the Devin I want, not the one who's floating around in the air. A loud country music song starts playing. It's Mrs. Brooke's phone. She doesn't answer. She's using her look at the person behavior to look at me, and I don't like it. Also, she's not answering the phone, and I can't stand cowboy song noises. If you don't answer the phone, you will miss your call, I tell her. She answers, but her eyes still look at the person when she's talking on the phone. I get under the table to get away from her eyes, and Mrs. Brooke always wants me to look in her eyes. She says we can see emotion in people's eyes, but I can't see that. Eyes always look the same to me. People's lips move all the time, though. That's where their words come out, and I can tell what people say by looking at their lips, even though Mrs. Brooks says that's not the way to find out, because you can't get a complete picture of what someone means by just looking at their lips. But I can. I can read lips. I look up at the wood at the bottom of the table. It's not finished wood. It's raw wood, like Devin's chest that he's making. I touch it, it's rough, and I rub my finger across the wood back and forth, harder and harder, until a splinter cuts me. I hit the splinter back. There's a drop of blood on the wood now, and it's red and it spreads, and it's seeping into a crack and bleeding across the unfinished wood, like Devin's chest that he's making. No, I rub the wood harder, trying to erase the blood, but it won't go away. Caitlin! I press my finger against the raw wood, and I rub it faster and faster, and it hurts, but I don't care. I want to stop the blood, but it's still there, and I can't make it stop. Caitlin! I can't stop it! Caitlin! It's Mrs. Brooke calling from somewhere, and I feel pulling on my arm, and I yank my hand free. No! I have to erase the blood! I have to! I have to! I have to! I can't see, or feel, or hear anything, except for some screaming, far, far away.